Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a while since I've done a video, but thought I'd do one today. I've just got the fuel system all complete basically, started to prime that, and then I've realised there's a bit of a leak on my fuel pump, the CAV fuel pump, and on top of it leaking, I'm also not really getting as much fuel coming out of the injection pipes as I should. So I've never actually done one of these before, but I've done plenty of other pumps, so I thought I'd go through it, take you through what I'm thinking at the time, and I'm sure if I can manage to do it, hopefully it'll inspire some of you to give it a go. I think you're a lot better off taking off your own one rather than buying a reconditioned one or a new one, whatever, and then trying to retime that. It's much easier to set the timing on this pump when you take the engine off, and then when you put it back, provided you put everything back in the same place, you should be okay. So yeah, let's make a start. So that's the pump there, and where I've got a leak is here. It's on the throttle actuator link. So essentially when the throttle pedal is pressed, I'll see if I reach my hand around inside. There we are. That moves, and there's a shaft that goes inside here, and that's where I'm getting the leak from. So yeah, this spring's seen better days as well, but we'll maybe try and replace that as well. Inside here there's a filter, so I've already had a go trying to replace that, just to see if that would solve the problem of getting more fuel out through the injector pipes, but it hasn't. If that had worked, then I would only be doing a seal change, but I've got a kit to do the whole rebuild. I think it was about £60 versus £20 for just the seal, so it's not that much more considering that you've got the pump off already. So just to show you, that's what the filter that was in there already came out, and this is one that I had a diesel bug problem with before, and you can see there it's quite clogged up, and these here what I cleaned out from inside. That's what I get from it externally. The spring there, that's all clogged up with this diesel bug as well, so I imagine inside is pretty clogged up, just needs a good clean, and then we'll put the new seals on. That'll sort the leak out, and just giving it a clean and fitting the new vanes and everything, that'll give us good pressure coming out of our injector pipes. So as you can see, I've got the battery disconnected, so there's no way this engine can turn over. First thing I'm going to do is just crack off all the fuel pipes, get the unit on its own sort of thing, and then there's a cover plate on the side. I'll open that up so I can look at the time marks, and also down on the flywheel I'll open that up so I can have a look at the time marks on the crankshaft. Whilst it's still bolted to the engine, you've got this banjo bolt that goes through there and this union that goes inside. It's good to crack that off, and also all these unions where the injector pipes go into, I find it probably be better to crack these off now whilst it's still bolted to the engine, save something to do it later. But yeah, I'll make a start, probably speed it up. So that's everything disconnected from the pump itself. One thing to note as well, I was actually quite lucky. I had a tray underneath the vehicle because it was leaking from before. But when I took this side cover off, it was a lot more fuel than I expected came out of it. So you may want to just make sure you catch that. You may have also noticed as well, I was missing, there's a dust seal that's going to be on these, and I was missing the one on that throttle actuator one. But yeah, all these are cracked off, loose, you can see. So that'll help me out later on. So next thing I've got to do is, it's a bit hard for me to see inside there. You can see it's a bit dirty. Let's see, I'll just pass the camera in quickly. We'll have to try and sort out the focus, but I'll turn the engine around now and I'll show you what I'm looking for on the inside. Okay, so I've got the pump lined up where I need it to be, basically. I've put some engineer's blue down on that mating face there, and a sharp scribe just to mark that line in there. That's just to help me get it back later. And I think just taking a bit of time to get the timing right now makes it a bit easier to put back than just taking it off and then retiming it later. You can see here the pump body's cracked under that nut, but it is holding a little bit, so I've just got these 3 nuts to undo, and hopefully this pump will pull straight up. So just whilst we're here, I'll show you quickly. Just take the camera out altogether. But you can see where I've got the engineer blue and I've marked the pump. You can see the master spline, and that's coming off roughly about 20 degrees. So it's close to where it should be at least. And then I'll come inside the pump body here. Maybe struggling to see that, but that, there we are. So we have the light on there, that mark there. It's just gone past. What's happened is when I've looked at it from the inside, I've looked at an angle like this, or in the true angle, we're just a little bit past, but it's more or less there, I think. So as long as it goes back in that same position, back into that spline, we should have no problems. So there we are. I've just had a quick clean up of the mating face, making sure nothing falls inside. You can see just by here, that's a scribe mark at 20 degrees. So that's where it's been timed up previously. Okay, so I'm going to start with a strip down of the pump now. I'll start with this front cover. And what I would say is take plenty of pictures as you go along, because you never know when it's going to help you out. What I've got is a couple of bits of cardboard, and I'll just lay things down as I go in the order that they come off, essentially. So that's the end cover plate. There's a dowel in there, don't know if you can see, so that can't go on the wrong way again. And this here we can actually open up because we've cracked it earlier whilst it was on the vehicle. It makes it quite easy to open up. So Got this, the copper washer. Then there's the spring. There's this here then, little, that's like a guide for the spring. That sits up in there. I'll just get a little screwdriver to try and help me get this out. So I'll just try and capture all those again. So that's the strainer. And we've got this here. And there is a cylindrical piece in here that should be sliding through. It's not at the moment. There's a smaller spring inside as well. And then that all goes in, and there's another spring inside there with like a flat tab on the top. That's still intact. This will need cleaning up, and I'll see if we can so again, this isn't moving as it should be, so that's something to clean up. So here's a seal for the end plate. Wasn't leaking, but I'm going to change them all regardless. We are the two vanes. They look in good condition, but I have got new ones in the kit. So next up, I'll take these out. These will all get new sealing washers. They can all be cleaned. There's a bit of that diesel bug residue on the bottom of these. And again, because I cracked them off on the vehicle, makes it a little bit easier now. That's the same. I don't know if you can, it's not really focusing in on that, but there's a bit of this diesel bug, but it is clear. Next up, we can maybe look at the top of this governor, or the actuator box. And it's just going to be 2 screws here. One of them looks a bit bent, but hopefully it comes off fairly easy. I think, yeah, that's a 3/8. And I'm not going to be touching any of the throttle stops on the pump itself. I'll keep them the same. So these do come off. It should be a small washer. I might just need to get a small hammer just to give it a tap. And now this is a bit stuck, so I'm just going to keep working it till it pulls up. So I've managed to get it lifted up a little bit, and I can see underneath inside. I just scrape this through. You can see there, that was the bacterial growth in the diesel I've got, and it's all inside the pump, which is what's making it so hard to let go. So we're nearly there, and there's a spring inside as well, but I'll just keep working it, see if we get it up. Come down to this level, and you can see there's the spring, and so I've got it on the middle one on both the holes. Very important to notice that, but you can see that all of this is probably why we're not getting the right amount of fuel coming out. So yeah, keep stripping it down, give it all a good clean, new seals. So there we are, tops off. You can see it's looking very sorry for itself. That again, we're noting it's in the second hole there, and we're coming through the second hole there. Maybe you can't see that one as well, but there's a hole above, hole at the bottom. We're coming through the second one. So I'm just going to see if I take this off the spring there, put that down, and that's the O-rings that were leaking, if it will focus. There we are. So they're not broken, they're just gone hard. So we'll get them changed. Same on the stop one there as well. Okay, so I think I've realised why we're not getting any fuel, and this here is the rod for our no fuel position to stop the engine, and you can see that's going out all the way, and as you release that, I'm pretty sure this should be springing back, and with a screwdriver I'm able to get it moved back to where I think it should be. But yeah, because there's so much of this gunk inside, it's just not moving on its own. So there's a folding tabs on here, knock them off, and there's a bolt there as well. We'll take that off, get this lifted out, and this we can remove. That slides underneath that tab there. take that out. That again is to be cleaned. Okay guys, you can see I've just given this a bit of a clean up. I've taken this out as well just because we'll replace the copper washer on there, and we'll take our focus back towards the head of the pump, if you like. So I'm going to place this in. It's a 5/8 Allen key, and I've got a 12mm flathead on this side. I'll screw this out, see that there. We'll set that down to one side. And then you need to take note of this groove here. That's sat at 3 o'clock. Pull that out. Now we can crack off this bleed nipple. So undo the bleed part of it first, and have to find the right size, and we'll take this one out, and then the pump's going to come out the vise. So we can get the other side. That's that. Again, in need of a good clean. The copper washer, that stayed on. I'll keep that together there now, so I just easy for me to get the sizes when they go back on. And this looks like a 1/2 inch, yeah. Oh. So that's come out as well. So I'm ready to take this out of the vise. We can flip it over, maybe get another piece of cardboard, give myself some more space. Okay, so this here is a auto start retard device, and I'm not 100% sure how it works. I need to have a look inside, but the principle behind this is basically going to be to retard the fuel injection during starting, so that it's putting the fuel in at a point where there's a bit of higher pressure, a bit of higher temperature in the cylinder, and that's going to help it start. So I thought that was going to be a lot tighter to get off. Wasn't too bad, luckily. And I'm pretty sure there's a ball bearing inside here, so as this comes out, I just want to keep an eye out for that. Make sure you can see it on the camera. I think so. So the ball bearing sits inside. You can see this is completely covered in this diesel growth sludge. So I'm going to put that up to one side there, give my hands a quick wipe, and then here we've got the other side. I'll take it off and then we'll disassemble this unit separately. But still, the main focus at the moment is getting the main pump body apart. and this should ease up, so I'll just get another screwdriver. It is coming slowly. There we go. You see that's got all the growth in as well, in need of a good clean. Quick wipe with the finger, I'll give the top a quick wipe as well. On this it looks like you can move the camera in. That's probably how it's adjusting the timing. But yeah, we'll take a closer look inside that. And then last thing, probably going to have to get some Stilsons to try and just twist that, see if it'll pull out. At the last check, there's nothing holding it in. Metering valves out, all our plugs around the side. So just give me a second. Okay, so you can see I've got them both separated. I didn't catch a video of it. I had to end up putting this back in the vise so I could. It was quite stiff to turn, but in the end it came. And then whilst I had it in the vise, the last seal I want to get to is this lip seal at the bottom here. So the way I did this was with it in the vise. This Allen key goes in there, and I just wedged that so the shaft couldn't turn. I was up against the governor weights. This isn't ridiculously tight, so I was a little bit worried about damaging it, but it's worked okay, and it's, well, no need for any special tools when you do it like that. And then this here should just pull out. There we are. And I can see the lip seal is in here. I'll just push this shaft up a little bit. This screwdriver's bending a bit too much. I'll just fetch another one. Here we are. Just stood the pump up as well. And that's hard as a rock, so definitely worth us getting this one changed. And in case you didn't notice it, the lip side goes inside, and that's to keep our fuel inside the pump, stop it going down into our crankcase, into the engine oil. So I think now I'm just going to get everything cleaned up. I'm not going to film myself doing that, bore you. I'll open this up, I'll open up the retarding device, make sure everything there moves freely. There's not too much, there's no seals inside to change, it's just making sure it's clean, everything moves freely. This you need to mark off because you can adjust your timing based off that, so we just need to be careful with that. Otherwise, I'm leaving the cam inside, I can slide it up and down, I know it's free to move. And I'm just going to clean that in situ. The circlip there I'm going to leave in place because that's where I'm going to get my timing mark from, on the top there. And then the governor, I'm just going to give that a clean up from inside as well. So once everything's clean, we'll start filming again. Okay, so I'm more or less done cleaning everything up. It's taken a really long time actually, just because of this diesel bug. It's really hard to get off. Probably got 5 hours just cleaning everything up. Some of the plungers, they were stuck inside. But having a look at it and how it works is actually really interesting. So I'll talk you through a few bits as I put it back together, just if you're interested in understanding the working of it. So here we have the pump itself, and basically there's 2 plungers inside, and as the fuel comes in, these get pushed out like that, and then as it comes onto the cam, it's going to close, and depending on the position in its cycle that it is, it's going to give its outlet port into a different injector. This plate here, you can see these, they can actually go the other way around as well, and this here I've just used a bit of engine oil to lubricate it. Maybe we can see the end of the plunger there, and that would push in. I'll just get a there we are, just so you see the working principle of that. I'll push these 2 together, and this here I've marked off where I had it before. You can see I used a bit of engineer's blue, and I've got a scribe mark at the side there. But if we were to look at it, how it is, let me just get it dropped back in. There we are, that's right there. If we were to turn it more, you can see these would be able to open up more, and that would give you more fuel. And likewise, if you were to turn it the other way, you'd be getting less fuel. And it states in the manual you should be checking at the outermost fuel here, put a micrometer between these 2 rollers and measure that distance to make sure you're correct. Because I've marked it with a line, no need for me to do that. And then this here will just sit on top, get bolted in, and that will control, that's got a master spline there, so we can't go wrong, and that there then will control it to make sure it's timed correctly. And then another piece I just wanted to show you quickly is this goes in the bottom, and the lip seal sits on that. You can see where the lip seal's gone hard, it's just started to make a groove on it. You can barely feel it with your fingers, so I think we'll get away with just sanding that back. I've done quite a few pumps on the ship where they've been running for a long time with a hardened seal, and the groove gets quite deep, and the way I'd repair that is to grind it out a bit, weld it up probably with like a 70-18 rod. It's quite hard, so it'll be durable, and then we'll turn it back on the lathe, and providing you're within 0.1, 0.2 millimeter of accuracy, the lip seal will seal on it no problem, and it'll last. So yeah, just to show you that before I do that, and then we'll start assembling the seals and everything. Okay, so we've got everything cleaned up, and that's the most important thing with these, to keep everything clean. I'm going to be using engine oil as like a lubricant. You can use diesel or 50-50 mix engine oil and diesel. I just find that the engine oil, I think it lubricates a bit better. I should have filled this up before we started. Drop a bit on my finger, I'll just put a bit in there. And this is going the spring side there, hard for it to pick up. It's going to go on the inside, so when the pressure on the inside comes, that's going to open up and press that seal out, help it seal. That's gone in just with my fingers, no need for a drift. I did have one ready, but yeah, that's just pressed in. I think it's all the way home. It's a bit big. I'll just get a smaller one just to make sure. Yeah, 27mm socket, and that's all the way in. So next up then is going to be this. That's going to fit through there, and then I need to mate this up with the spline. so you can't see it, but there we are. So that's up inside, and we'll start to tighten this bolt up, see if we pick up the thread. There we are. Now it's mated up. Okay, so this is back in. It was a bit fiddly just to get the spline lined up, but it is now. The torque for this bolt, 36.3 Newton meters, it says in the manual. I've gone for 36 Newton meters. And then after that, you want to check the end float. There should be a little bit, and you have a maximum allowable float of 0.025 millimeters. So you can either check that with a DTI or pull it out as far as possible. Push from the inside and see if you can get a 0.025 feeler gauge in there. So there we are. I didn't have an imperial size that would go onto my torque wrench, so I got away with using an 8mm metric Allen key that just about goes on. And then I was struggling to hold it with just a screwdriver, so what I did was I actually got a spanner down inside like that with it in the vise. I could hold that then to stop it turning and torque the bottom up. So probably a better way to undo it as well. So yeah, now that's done, we can fit the auto advance, and well, I'll go over how it works because it's quite interesting. But you need to make sure that this is quite free to turn like that, no resistance. If you've cleaned up well, then it will be. Okay, so next up we'll get this auto advance / retard device back on. And the way that works is that the rollers I showed you earlier on the pump, they roll around inside this, the cam ring. You can see it comes in and goes out. And that basically times when help push these the pump in to create the pressure, and then the bigger areas on the side here, the fuel pressure will open those back up. And what will happen is this here has a piston inside. It's like a servo piston, it has a spring, and basically when the pump's turning slow, you're going to have a lower pressure of fuel inside. So what it's going to do is have it retard the timing, so that it's going to help you with your cold start or your first start, and then as you speed up, it's going to advance the timing. That's going to give you better combustion, better fuel efficiency, and it's actually very clever yet very simple solution. So first thing I'm going to do, get this gasket on, and it's got this half moon shape cut out like that. It's going to sit on there. Doesn't matter if it goes that way or with the writing up. Now we can put it this way, just the way it's been folded in the packet, I think it's going to sit nicer that way. And then this will sit on, this needs to be over. And this should just slip on. There we are. New copper washer on top of there. We've obviously got the gasket sealing underneath. And I'm just going to make sure by eye the gasket and the hole is lined up there. And just tighten that by hand. Next thing we'll do is fit the pump itself in top of the pump. So here it is, you can see there, that's where I've marked up, it's gone back exactly the same place. For anyone looking for the torque on these, there's no value in the manual, it just says that using the special tool set at this length you meant to tighten it. I've just given them a really good nip up, really quite tight. And then look in here, the hole at the top, what we're going to do is line that up with the top so that this hole is what's going to line up with there. And to make my life easier, I've put the master spline there, lined it up on the inside as well, and we should be somewhere near. Plenty of, also mentioned, put a new O-ring on here, and engine oil again to lube everything up here and inside the body on the cam track as well. I'm just going to get a small mallet to tap that in. There we are, so it's going tight on the new O-ring, but I could see it was lined up, so it's been driven home now. And then this bolt can go in top of here, and that's going to help secure it in. Okay, so this is the next screw here. Got new ball bearing in it. There's a new O-ring at the top, a new O-ring here. It's going to be a Doughty seal, but this will get fitted in now then, so just need to be careful that the O-ring doesn't get, the ball bearing doesn't drop out. And you might be able to see I've already fitted the other locating bolt and the lead screw. Again, just all hand tight for now. And then these can be tightened down first, I usually do. This one, about 15 Newton meters. This one, 39. And then, I did mention it earlier, but these end caps, they're 28 Newton meters each. And it does say in the manual that when you get to this stage, you should take off this cap and make sure you can still actuate the cam ring. But I'm pretty confident it's sat in correctly and it's all free, so I'm not going to bother with that. I'll just get these tightened up first, and then the this rotor end here, you might remember I took that out earlier. That can, well, I'll tighten that in as well, it doesn't have to be on camera. Same way as I took it out, and that's 7.3 Newton meters of torque. It says in the manual. I've not got a torque wrench that goes that low, so I'll just give it a nip. And then the same with these others too. I'm not sure what the torque on them is. It's below what my torque wrench is capable of. So I just give them a nip, and if they leak you can just nip them a bit more to crush that copper washer a bit more. Okay, so now I've got everything torqued up. I'm going to focus on the end cover here. So I've got a new ring, and that slot there, that's going to go at 3 o'clock when I look at it like this. We'll just push it in like that. And if you remember, there was a dowel pin on here, that's going to locate to there. It can either go 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock depending on the rotation of the pump, but for this one, that's correct there. And then here it is, you see the dowel pin, you can put it in on the other side for different orientation, and that would fit up against there. So if it's out a little bit, it'll rotate, it'll line up with these bolts. But it's easy to assemble this whilst it's still loose. So a small spring with a tab on that's still inside. We'll go over the rest of the parts, what order they go in. Okay, so everything on the inlet. So we've got the housing, and then inside there's a spring, and it's got a tab on it like that. You're never going to get it picked up on the camera. I never bothered taking it out, I've just left it in there. And then next up is going to be this, and you can see that there's got a shoulder on the top and a straighter shank at the bottom getting into focus. And the reason for that is our filter sits on that shoulder like that, so there's only one way that's going to go. I'll just take it back off quickly. So got this pin then, and inside here needs to be really clean. This pin should just drop through on its own, and if you hold it, you should feel the air being pressed up by that. On the bottom here there's a washer. I've not changed that, there's not a new one with a kit, so I've just left that there. After that, this small spring is going to go in. You see I've just got my finger on the bottom, just in case that little pin wants to drop out. After that we've got this spring and this pin. So again, this pin has got a short side and a long side. See if I can get it to focus. She's struggling. But the long side, that's going to go into our spring, and what you do with the spring is just check that it's not broken, and that's going to sit in like that. So yeah, really hard to get it into focus. If I go further away, I don't know if you can see that long piece anyway up inside the spring. The spring can go either way around, doesn't matter. Let's just keep that on, and then I'll just put the filter that sits on the outside of the spring, and that's going to push on, and all this then is going to drop down inside. Got the reduction nipple then, or the cap. Put a new copper washer on that, and that's got a bit of a recess with a spring to sit in as well. It should be pretty central. Sorry. Now I can feel the spring taking up, and just by hand like that, and that's like its enclosed unit. That's ready to go. So next up we can put the new vanes in here, and again there was nothing wrong with the ones I took off. I've just bought the kit with everything, so we may as well fit everything, and both the vanes are exactly the same part number. So that's going to go in like that. That's fine, and then the pump's going to be turning anti-clockwise the way you're looking at it. So I'm just going to give it a full turn, make sure there's nothing tight. That's just moved a little bit. It's okay. We can use the screwdriver to push that back round to where it's supposed to be. And then won't forget this seal in the end. Bit of oil on this. Yeah, well, I'll put a bit of oil, just rub it in on that face there as well. That's going to pick up on there, And then you can put a bit of oil on these as well, if should you wish. Seal's got stuck on the face. Let's go again. And I'll get it lined up on the bolts first, and I'll just make sure that this dowel is lined up. It's going to have to come down a bit more. There we go, I managed to move it just with the inlet piece. These then, tighten them crosswise, all four in. It doesn't quite look right to me, it's been kicked out a bit, so I'm just going to take it off and have a look at this dowel pin again. Last thing you want to do is force anything on, it should all go real easy. No shame in taking it off. It might be easier for me to put it on without the seal first. That's going in. And then we'll just tighten this crosswise to bring it in. Little bit by little bit. And I'll just give it another spin now. And no, that's actually jammed up, so there's something wrong here. I'll take this off again. I won't film me taking it off again. Okay, so there we are. I have the end plate back on, and it's now turning freely. Turns out what the problem was the old, or the new vane, if you like. They were a little bit, just very fraction longer, and they were rubbing on this front surface. I managed to turn it with the Allen key, and then I could see it had worn down a bit, so I've taken it off, cleaned it out again. Now it's inside and it's turning like it should be. So ready to put the governor housing back on, the actuator. So that's the next step. Okay, so ready to get this governor drive back together now. So I'll just show you that. I have taken it apart, put it back together, and the metering valve is all cleaned up. And you need to turn this so that the governor has two flats that sit at the top. And this is basically going to sit on top of that, and we're going to have to get the metering valve in at the same time. There we are. And you can see, compared to what that was before, that's moving a lot freer, as it should. So now we've got this spacer. So if you remember from the dismantling video, the open-ended part, that's going to go on this side here. And lock tab washer. Get a new one of them with the kit. And you see this one's got a bit of a, well, they've both got a bit of an extended tab past the fold. The other one doesn't matter too much, but this one needs to be sat that way round so that our actuator to stop will slide underneath it, and that'll help keep it in. And then before I tighten anything, I'll just get the third and final one in. So now I'm just going to get these tightened up. I mentioned as well, just put a bit of lube oil on this metering valve. That's how it should be. But I'll get this tightened up. Again, I can't remember what the torque value is, but they're pretty low. They don't need a lot, just a quick nip. And I'll fold these tabs up, and then we can get this spring in the centre fitted. Okay, so I've got these tabs folded up, and next one to go in I think will be this. Like I said before, this is going to slide under this tab here, and that's going to work essentially by pushing this metering valve to the stop position, and that will be actuated by this, which is going to be turning. You can see that goes. So I need to make sure this lines up with that groove when we fit it back. Oil this up, just the new O-rings. Yeah, that's got a smear of oil. I'll do the same with this one. So now this spring in through the middle hole. And then through the middle hole on this one as well. And then I just need to remember the gasket for the top of this. So that's going to sit something like that. Hopefully yours will go down a lot easier than that. I've got a slightly bent stud here, which is why it didn't slide down properly. But it's important to make sure you've got the lever engaged with this in the correct position. You still have to take it off, put it back on, just to make sure. And two new fibre washers under here. This goes with that. Again, that was new in the kit, that whole arm. And then this one, and I think it's a 7/16. It's a 3/8. And again, I can't remember what the torque value is. It's pretty low, so I just do them nip by hand. So there we are. I think that's good enough. So what we're missing is we've got the return pipe connection to go on. So the kit that comes with a new steel crush washer. I'll just screw that in by hand. This needs fully tightening, as does this top one here. And then I'm going to have to refit all these. I'm just going to give them a quick clean up first. I've not had a chance yet. But with these ones, I'll leave them loose, and then I'll connect up the injector pipe on the vehicle, and then I'll give them a final nip up, Okay, so you can see on the pump here, I've left these just a little bit loose so there's a bit of wiggle room in them. Tighten them up once they're in situ. I've put the new gasket down there, and the gasket was slightly too big. It was just covering this blue mark I'd made earlier. So I've just trimmed just a slither off the end so I can see it now. And I've also got this inspection cover open on the side. I've lined my A up with my circlip the same way as it went off. And now in theory, if I drop this on, providing that this blue line lines up with the edge of this, then we'll be in the right place, and we can just check on this hole here, make sure that's like a double check, a confirmation, and then there's a cork gasket to go on here, cover on, and then more or less done with the job. So yeah, nothing more to it really. So that looks to me like it's lined up. That there, we'll just put the stud in. Okay, so you can see there it's lined up with the mark I put before removing it. Also the inside, the letter A is lined up the same place I had against the circlip before. Just make sure there's some backlash in there, so when you turn it on you want to turn it, in this case it's a clockwise direction, to make sure that line's smack on basically. Now that's done, I'll tighten up the 3 bolts to hold it down, and I'll get this actuator arm, if you want to call it, back on top. Okay, so you can see we've got all our fuel pipes connected back up, everything's tightened, we've got the spill pipe back on, I put the injectors back in. So next job now is to fill the pump with diesel, get the air bled off. The last thing you want to be doing really is trying to turn it over with it airlocked. It's not getting lubrication, it's not going to be doing any good for the pump. So there's 2 bleed screws on these, one on the main body itself there, I've already loosened it off. And it's just a small, I think it's a 5/16 nut, and there's one on the governor actuator body. You can see just there. So with them loosened off, what I'm going to do is get down onto the lift pump and just pump that up until I've got fuel coming out. And it will take a while, but there we are. So you can see a few drips coming from there. Okay, so now I've got it fuel bled through both nipples. It does take quite a while doing it by hand, but what I've done is I've cracked off this injector here. One should be enough, and what I'm going to do is I've connected up a battery as well, and I turn it over by hand, bleed out that injector, and then hopefully it'll fire up.